Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. It is Tuesday night. It's just after 9 p.m. Where else you going to be? I'm here like I am all the time. Behind the steel curtain editor, Dave Schofield. And with me, as always, is my big brother, Rich. Rich, how's it going tonight?
I'll go your route. Get kind of blue in the face.
I was going to say, you look a little blue, brother.
Little blue in the face because I haven't been able to breathe or choke or anything.
Yeah.
As we sit around doing nothing this past week. Although I used the time wisely and did stuff like some little jobs around the house and did some hunting and just kind of relaxed and.
So
there you go.
If you looked at my 6 things that you can do during the bye week that I did that was silly, it was actually from 2 years ago. And I looked at it again, I'm like, this still works. I'm not going to do a new list. I'm just going to use this one again. And I admitted that I'm just going to use it again and put it out there. You went with the whole get closer to nature, rain or shine.
Yes, I did.
So you went there. I went with the route of, I'm going to watch other football. And I did. Yep. I sat back and enjoyed just being able to take in all the rest of the other games and relax and not have to worry about writing articles and stuff during them. It was so relaxing. This goes to show you the difference it is between covering the Steelers and just being able to watch football. My wife actually, came down to our family room and sat on the couch with me while I watched football and, kind of watched what was on, had a book and, she never does that. We have never sat down and watched football except in Heinz Field. It's just the way it works. So that was actually kind of nice to do that, but it was just the whole idea. It's funny because it was nice to have the break, but yet it really sucked to have the break because it sucked to not have to have the Steelers. Something like that to look forward to. We still did a quote unquote post game show, which was a whole lot of fun. That's when I asked the question,
which I wasn't listening to live because I was sitting in a tree.
You were sitting in a tree.
I was sitting in a tree with him. I was like,
yep.
Oh, wow, they really are going.
Yep.
What would have been right after the 1 o'clock game.
Yeah, but pretty much as soon as the early games were over, only to find out the 2 other guys that, Brian Anthony Davis and Jeff Hartman, who go to do the show with him, neither one of them watched any football. We're supposed to go on and talk about, how the AFC North is different and stuff like that. And what do? They didn't even watch. So I was the one who kind of had to fill me with stuff. But I asked the question, what sucks more, the Steelers bye week or Baker Mayfield? And it was just, one of those questions that can you really, they both suck so bad. It's so hard to weigh one over the other.
Bad, but no, that's bad would be right there with me. That's an easy one. It's Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Actually, I'm actually going to break down on my Steeler Stat Geek, my audio only podcast. So if all you do is catch the YouTube shows and the Facebook live shows, you are missing out on a plethora of Steelers information by behind the steel curtain. Because on our audio
wait.
Yeah.
FA. Yeah. Can you tell me what a plethora means?
I'm sorry, I do not have your superior intellect. So
y'all know that's true.
Yes. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Boy, okay. This is our family. This is the way we are. Okay. What was I talking about? Oh, the audio only shows. You're missing so much more content. Like, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I still haven't caught up on all the bye week bonanza podcasts that we did, but there was one I made sure that I had to listen to. I had to listen to Big Bro Scho and Scho 2.0. I made sure I caught that one.
Oh, good. How was it? Because neither one of us to it.
Kyle did a nice job. I should have told you that there's a setting you can change on your microphone that's easier to do with 2 people. But I think Bad took care of that on the technical end. And other than that, things were good. But for those of you that may not know, I also have an audio only podcast that goes out on Thursday mornings. I'm one of the poor schlubs that has to fill in on the days that Jeff doesn't do Let's Ride. So poor Michael Beck and I, we're just dealing with people that just want to hear Jeff. But it's my Steeler Stat Geek show for my nerds of steel. They're out there somewhere. I think there's 3 or 4 of them. And this week I'm gonna break down Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, Coach Tomlin today in his press conference. We're going to get to Coach Tomlin's press conference. We sure
are.
are.
Yes, we are.
But he said today that really they were interchangeable. He basically gave nothing, which to me almost becomes bulletin board material for one Baker Mayfield. But you know what? It really is true. It really is true. I don't want to get into it too much here. I'm going to get into it on Stat Geek because I'm going to have the numbers to break it down as well with those 2 players, especially when they go up against the Steelers. But we're going to be talking about what we look for from the Steelers now. We'll probably get more into this more even in the second half, but I at least got to bring it up now. The Steelers are coming off the bye week. You never know what team you're going to get. Are you going to get that rested, rejuvenated, ready to go team? Do you like that alliteration? I got 3 R's in on that one. Or are they going to have, the downtime dud? Are they going to come out and look like a team that isn't very sharp because they haven't been on the field for 2 weeks? So we'll get into that a little bit more because we've got too much to talk about.
Yeah, we've got a good bet here.
Because Mike Tomlin's press conference today, I have to admit, that was more one of the most fun press conference podcasts. That's another podcast that's on our audio only network. That's one that I do Tuesday. I mean, it's out within a half an hour when the press conference is over. We have it's about a 15-minute or so podcast that recaps everything. And that was a fun one because I was leading up to the last question. I wanted to get to that last question to talk about. But we're going to lead up to it. Not going there to start. Did you catch it live or did you catch the whole thing later or did you just see the parts that
I saw what I would call the highlight reel.
Okay. So there was a few things that were brought up that were very interesting. One, the Zach Banner situation. Coach Tomlin seems, with a smile on his face, says he's excited and genuinely seems excited that they're dealing with 3 players in 2 spots and they got to figure it out this week. So I'm really hoping that all options are on the table. I want to know that all options are on the table because I'm sorry, if the best option is Dan Moore and Zach Banner and Chooks goes to the swing tackle, I want that to be what they do if that's the best option that they determine this week.
Right.
Sometimes I feel, do you have a little bit of distrust, even though it's a different offensive line coach? He was the assistant offensive line coach last year. Do you still have a little bit of distrust that the Steelers are going to handle the offensive line correctly when so many people were upset that Kevin Dotson was the hot hand and they took him off the field and didn't have him out there in the playoff game? Does that weigh into anything with you when it comes to offensive line decisions?
The initial decision I'll be okay with. We'll have more fun second guessing it.
That's a good point. Yeah. If what he does, it's going to be wrong because we'll tear it up one way or the other.
No. The biggest thing I think about is we don't want to be in that situation where we're looking back then at that playoff game last year and thinking, wow, look at the step back this line took.
Yeah.
I don't care what they do as long as the line doesn't step back. However, where you have the advantage, though, is you could see a game where they're still trying to get it together and then they move forward and do okay. Last year, you didn't have that because it was the playoff game and they lost and they were done.
It was done.
So,
and you also have to ask, was it part of it the coach that they had or what? Because maybe it was the system, maybe it was who they were playing next to. But for those of you that don't follow other teams, especially offensive linemen on other teams, Matt Filer's having himself a pretty decent year out there in, I want to say San Diego, but it's San Diego's team, but they play in LA.
Yeah.
We'll just say it that way. Kind of like it's Oakland's team that plays in Las Vegas.
Yes. It will always be the San Diego Superchargers.
Yes. So he's having a decent year. We all saw Al Villanueva have a terrible game his first week at right tackle, and then has done much better when they moved him over to left. But that whole offensive line thing is going on. So that's that. It's going to be interesting to see what the Steelers do. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I don't know that I trust them. I mean, they're going to make the call that they think is best. I'm just going to be like, is that really the best one? No matter what they do.
They've got an advantage this year over last year because they're guaranteed to have more than one game with whatever they decide and do.
If it doesn't work, you can switch things up. Exactly. So that was one thing. We've got to get going. We got to get to the good part of this press conference. Okay. Another thing, for those of you asking about Anthony McFarland Jr., Coach Tomlin said he's going to be activated. Now, he didn't put in the words this week, but the way he said it, every indication came to be that it was going to be this week. He's back to practicing. They don't have to activate him to the 53-man roster until next Tuesday, I do believe is the day. I'm pretty sure it's next Tuesday. So then he's saying, hey, we're going to look to activate him. Not sure what his role is yet. We've got to see how that plays out. So for those looking for Ant Mac to come in and be the number 2 running back, it's funny. It sounds encouraging, but at the same time, I thought he was going to be possibly the number 2 running back last year, and he was inactive a lot of times. So we'll see what the Steelers are thinking, what they're going to do. I don't know. And anything that gives quality play, even in a very limited amount, to spell Najee Harris is a good thing, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So would I like to see him there and ready to go this week? Yes. But this is one coming in now where we don't have to activate him yet. That I'm going to trust the coaching staff. They're going to handle it the way they feel they need to handle it.
Yeah. But see, to me, looking at the backup running back position, because he was asked about that and everything else, and he's like, we still need to assess it. I look at what you want from your backup running back is what you want from your sub-package defensive secondary. Somebody like Trey Norwood that's doing a fantastic job, but doesn't mean that he's going to play any more snaps because he's doing such a good job in the role that he's in. He's doing a nice job. James Pierre's doing a nice job. Arthur Millette, through 6 weeks, is the highest graded secondary player according to PFF for the Steelers. That article is out on behindthesteelcurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. It was out there today.
And apparently Minkah Fitzpatrick's terrible.
No, yeah, well, according to them. So yeah, we take that with a grain of salt. But what I'm saying is you are getting quality play from guys in sub-package roles. Doesn't mean that means they instantly would do better with more snaps. And that's the same thing that I'm kind of looking at with the backup running back. You want someone that can come in and take 8 to 10 snaps a game, get 4 to 6 carries, and do a great job when they're called on, but you don't have to use them more than that. So one other thing before we get to the big one, the question I get more than anything, we see everywhere on Twitter, everything else, what's the deal with Stephon Tuitt? We don't know any more than we'll tell you everything that we know, and we don't really know anything.
Coach Tomlin
said the return is not imminent. So for people thinking he was going to come back, it doesn't sound like he's going to be coming back to start the 21-day window this week. Just based on the way he didn't say it, but he said his return is not imminent. He's working his way back. That's what was said. We don't know. That could be a pretty big boost. Anything else you want to say about Tuitt?
No, because there's just nothing to say.
Exactly. And everyone keeps asking, what's the deal with Tuitt? I mean, it's not like we're going to get updated information every day about Stephon Tuitt. You just don't get it from players on injured reserve. You don't get it. So, but one thing that was a good positive was Coach Tomlin said every man on the 53-man roster is expected to be participating this week for practice. In other words, people might throw a fit again if Ben Roethlisberger has Wednesday off. Right now, it's so much of a routine. It's not that he's not practicing. It's not that he's not doing any work. He's just not throwing. Okay. So if he's just not in there throwing, but working through everything else, maybe working on footwork, working through the mental stuff, being there to talk through stuff with the other quarterbacks, it's not that he's doing nothing. And that's I'm sorry. It drives me nuts when people act like he does nothing. But if he's on the practice report tomorrow, still wouldn't be shocked if it says hip. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, I don't really look for guys to be out. They had a bonus practice on Monday. They should be good to go. You ready for this one?
Yes.
Okay. I kind of feel bad. Go ahead.
I want to start with this. You know what I thought of seeing this, listening to this? You may not remember Where's Bad When I Need Him and Tony, because they would be there. Way back when Miller Lite started doing their commercials, there was one where John Madden's in one of the Miller Lite commercials. The taste great, less filling, whatever. Yeah. And at the very end, they show the screen, and here it was, paper, and Madden comes busting through it, just blah, 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 blah. That's how I felt with Mike Tomlin at his press conference today. Like, Mike Tomlin comes through, what are you all talking about?
And what's funny is that was not the tone of the press conference the whole time. It was like it was a head coach who was excited to get back to work. Everything else, he was answering the questions. And I have to say this: Tim Benz asked the question. I knew it was him. I could tell his voice whenever he asked the question. I am really upset about people that were upset with him for asking the question. He asked the question needed asked, and he asked it in a fantastic way. Now, for those of you like, okay, guys, come on, we don't know what you're talking about because you haven't caught it. Well, first of all, where you been? Because this was crazy. This was everywhere. But I want to read to you. This is the transcript of Tomlin's answer, but they also have a transcript mostly of the question. Some of it's paraphrasing. I can't say it's exactly, but this is what the Steelers media website released as the question. This is what Tim Benz asked. He said, at any point in your coaching career, did you ever have any interest or express an interest in being a head coach in the college game? And do you have any idea how that may or may not have led to folks like Ryan Clark and Doug Whaley and Carson Palmer connecting you to some college jobs? Sorry, plural jobs. When you think of that, that's a good way to phrase that question.
He phrased it correct.
Yes,
he did.
That was a great way to ask that question. He's saying, have you ever thought about this or said anything to anyone to make these guys have this report? So he did it. And honestly, Coach, I don't think Coach Tomlin has a problem with Tim Benz with that question. I think he has a problem with the people that were making the stories over the last week.
Yes.
So I want to say very nice job in asking the question in a great way. I could read you the answer.
Yeah, I hope Tim Benz didn't take that response personally.
I know. I really hope he didn't. Goodness, because did people go after him? That's Twitter for you. That's Twitter.
Well,
Yeah. And I'm just like, no. He asked that question in a great way to be like, Coach, there's these rumors flying around. Did you do anything to indicate anything at all that people would to have any reason this would be happening? Or is this people just, making up crazy crap about you because you're the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's in essence what he said. That's the bro question, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But it's so funny because then the national media starts picking up on this. And I'm pretty sure I think it was Ian Rappaport on Twitter. He quoted, I don't know if it was either Aditi Quinkabala or Brooke Pryor, one of them who had typed out, or it might have been Mark Cabali, someone who had typed out Tomlin's response. And he said, this response is fantastic. And then he tweeted like 5 minutes later, says, reading that response gives it no justice until you see the video. It was great. Coach Tomlin, he shut it down. I really wish I could play it for you. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, the whole press conference will be, there'll be a link to it. There's a link on the Steelers Twitter page. I'll have that tweet on behindthesteelcurtain.com in the Players Mentioned article tomorrow on the website. You could just go anywhere and look for it and look for the end of it. It was great. I'll tell you what he said. I mean, we're going on saying how wonderful it is. We didn't say it. I'll read the transcript, but I'm not doing it justice. I'm telling you now, it's just not doing it justice. He said, hey guys, I don't have time for that speculation. That's a joke to me. I've got one of the best jobs in all professional sports. Why would I have any interest in coaching college football? That'll be the last time I address it. And not only today, but moving forward. They kind of cut out where he mumbled something where it sounded like he said, they say never, but never. Okay.
Yeah,
That was
I
his
like
answer to
that.
the question.
Yeah.
They say to never say never, but the answer is never. Okay. Anybody else get any questions about any college jobs? There is not a booster with a big enough blank check. That was most of what he said. Then something happened that I'd never seen happen at a Tomlin press conference before. Bert Lawton says, any other questions? All right, thanks, Coach. And Coach Tomlin, kind of leans back up into the microphone and says, anybody asking Sean Payton about that? Anybody asking Andy Reid about stuff like that? And looks around and walks off. It was fantastic. I mean, and they're like, oh man, Coach Tomlin was hot. Yeah, he was hot. But you know what? He was hot in a way that Steelers fans went crazy happy over. Is that a good way to sum it up?
Yep. Good way to sum it up.
Because somebody's like, oh man, Coach Tomlin's hot because the team's not very good. Oh man, Coach Tomlin. We're like, oh man, Coach Tomlin's hot because people are questioning his loyalty to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it was one of he's had some good moments in press conferences. A lot of times with the Tomlinisms. That might have been, I don't know, maybe it's because it's fresh and it's what have you done for me lately?
And it's so different. That's what made it so fun.
Is that the best Tomlin press conference clip that you've seen in a while?
In a while, yeah, because it wasn't the same old. It wasn't just with Tomlinisms. It
wasn't just a one-liner.
It was passion. It was. I mean, that was Mike Tomlin speaking from the heart.
Yeah,
not holding back. Not trying to hide anything, not trying to give where he's not giving anything away or anything like that. Nope. He just boom in your face. And
I want to know, Brad brought up something. I'm going to read what he says on the live chat.
Okay.
And then to ask the next question, he says, I think there was more of the fact that Tomlin was waiting to slam the door on that. Than it was the question that was asked. I think Tim was pretty calculated when he asked that. I'm going to say, did they specifically wait for that to be the last question? I wonder if someone else might have had another question. They're like, after that, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? But I don't blame him. Let's just say this. If no one would have asked him about it, people would have been talking about how he wasn't asked about it and how he didn't bring it up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it actually worked out perfect. It was perfect, in my opinion. So, you think so?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it did. I think he answered the questions. I don't think there's any doubt. It was fantastic. Sorry. I was sitting here looking back through the live chat a little bit, and my good buddy, thanks being Joe, as I brought up the Miller Lite commercials earlier, he said he loved the ones with Bubba Smith saying he used to tackle the entire backfield till he found the one with the ball. My favorite one actually included what was a Steeler.
L.C. Greenwood,
but L.C. Greenwood reading the letter to the NFL quarterbacks.
Oh,
and then at the end he said signed and crushed the can.
Yeah,
L.C. Greenwood.
Yeah.
Followed up by the one that was the letter back from quarterback Burt Jones, couldn't crush the can.
Yeah, those were some really good stuff.
That was good stuff back in the day. Sorry, I gotta get back and remember some of those things. But I'm sorry, just that with Tomlin at the end, like that was almost had a little bit of John Madden flair to it, and I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it.
And I just liked that, he didn't say, he could have been like, are you seriously going to ask me about that? I'm not, I am solely focused on the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns in our first AFC North road matchup of the 2021 season. This is this is AFC North football. I don't got time for things like that. He could have easily just said that answer and we would have liked it.
And still put his Tomlinisms out there with him.
Exactly.
But it was not with the Tomlinisms. It was.
He shut it down. They say never say never, but never. Never. Can't write a big enough blank check. I love it. I mean, You don't get answers like that from Mike Tomlin. You don't. You get coach speak. That was not coach speak. And I think that's why we're all in love with it.
Well, let me just say this. If any of that passion that we saw there today carries any of that over into the practice this week, the Steelers are going to be ready this weekend to play.
Yeah. And I mean, and it is funny because there was something else that was brought up in the press conference, and it was about, the last time you faced the Browns was in the playoffs, and it was just, they really got the best of you. Is that motivating for this week? Coach Tom's like, maybe to some. It's not motivating to Najee Harris, not motivating to Pat Freiermuth, not motivating to KG, Kendrick Green. Not to Dan Moore. We've got a lot of guys on this team that they weren't around last year. That doesn't do anything for them. But what should do it for them is that this is AFC North football, and we're going to go out there and play. So I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and take our break now because I really want to get into this game. So it's a little bit early. So if the second half's a little bit longer, we'll see. But want to do it now because I really want to dive into it. So if you're with us on the audio side, click the part 2. If you're here, Facebook, YouTube Live. Wait, I said them backwards. YouTube or Facebook Live. Just give us a few seconds and we'll be right back. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to part 2 of the Scho Bro Show. This is behind the steel curtain editor Dave Schofield with me, as always, enjoying talking about the Mike Tomlin press conference today. Is my big brother Rich. Rich, how's it going?
Welcome to the Bro Show.
Yeah,
bring on the bros.
We're having fun. We're just having fun. That was fun today. After not having the Steelers, no practice reports, not even knowing what's going on for all that time. You come back, the first thing you get back that's really anything remotely Pittsburgh Steelers is Mike Tomlin's press conference. He's excited about the matchup against the Browns. And then you get that at the end. It was fantastic. We broke it down in the first half. If you're here for the second half first, you want to go back to listen to the first half to hear about everything about Coach Tomlin's remarks about, if he's interested in going to the college ranks. Would you look at that as a step down? I'd look at that as a step down.
I would.
Step down?
Yes.
Even though sometimes they pay him more, but is it really? That's what it's all about? Yeah. Gotta love it. So it's the Browns. And Coach Tomlin was asked, you're last place in the division. You're 0-1 of the division. Is this, he's like, you know what? The division standings are going to play out on the field because we got 5 games left. And the one we got now is our first road game in the AFC North. He's like, this is big. He was asked questions about Chase Claypool and making a second-year jump. He was asked questions about Alex Highsmith and how he's playing. And you know what his answer was for those? He's like, look for this week. This is the big game. This is our biggest, basically saying this is our biggest game this season. See how they step up this week. And it really feels like the Steelers are treating this like the biggest game of the season. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Yeah, so the question is it? Because you have to admit, the Steelers probably were looking at that going into week 1, going into Buffalo and having to take on everybody's pick in the AFC to go to the Super Bowl, Buffalo Bills, which still right now, after 7 weeks of the NFL season, would look to be a wise pick, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Even though the Steelers beat them in week 1. So the Steelers, that's the way I believe they were looking at that game. And I think they're looking at this one just the same. The question is the bye. How concerned are you with the Steelers coming out of the bye?
I'm not, because I'll tell you what, I almost wanted to write a knee-jerk reaction this week, and I was going to do the knee-jerk reaction to the Steelers bye week.
Oh, that would have been fantastic. You should have done it. That would have been great.
I was too busy fishing and hunting this weekend. That's why.
That would have been fun.
The main thing I would have talked about was, because my knee-jerk reaction, of course, when the schedule came out was, look, they screwed the Steelers again, gave us this early bye week, blah, 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 blah. and only to turn out to be like, you know what? The bye week might have come at just the time we needed it to this year.
Yeah.
Okay. A, getting guys back to healthy.
Mm-hmm.
B, they've had a chance to get through camp with a lot of young guys, get some work on the field, had some games under their belt. Now they get the time to regroup, refocus, and see what we do moving forward. I'm actually thinking that the Steelers are their bye week happened at the right time for them this year.
Yeah.
They actually got a bye this year.
Yeah.
And
we'll talk about that.
And I'm very optimistic coming out of this bye.
Very optimistic. Why is that?
Mainly for health.
Okay.
To me, the game against Green Bay, we just had too many guys that were just dinged up, guys that were playing that you could tell were dinged up.
Mm-hmm.
If we get those
Cleveland,
guys,
my goodness, I'm like
Cleveland.
Not Cleveland. Sorry,
Cincinnati.
Wrong C team from the north. Cincinnati.
They're both from Ohio.
Yeah. They both have a weird orange color, and they both suck.
They're both from Ohio, and as Kyle says, when we go into Ohio, it just smells like Jag.
Yeah. So no, it's not that. I mean, I say, they both suck. No, that's just what we say as fans. You got to give props to the Bengals for taking to the Ratbirds this week, but we'll get to that later. So, but I know what you're saying, and that's why the question is, is it rest and rejuvenated, or is it the downtime dud? So,
to me, it's rest and rejuvenated.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Now, there's a couple things that I want to bring up. Some people are like, the Steelers coming off the bye. Yeah. Technically, you could say the Steelers were kind of coming off a bye for week 1. They basically put a bye week in there now before the season starts, which they hadn't had before. Steelers did all right in week 1. Okay. Don't know if that's the same thing, though, because that's a new thing. Don't know if we can really count that. But the Steelers have actually won 4 straight games coming out of the bye. They have won their last 4 games coming out of the bye. So the last time they lost coming out of the bye was 2016.
Is that counting last year where we can't really tell where the bye happened?
That was counting last year where you count the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's one thing. But there's something else that I noticed when I looked at this. This week will only be the second time where head coach Mike Tomlin is coming out of the bye and playing a game where the Steelers are underdogs. Every other time, the Steelers have been favored to win, even on the road. And a lot of coming out of the bye week, more often than not, they've been going on the road. Now, the last 3 years they've been home, but before that, they were 3 years straight on the road. Then, so there's just as many road games as home games throughout, going back to 2007. But the only game in which the Steelers were not favored coming out of the bye was back in good old 2015 when they went to Seattle in week 12 because they had a week 11 bye, and they went to Seattle and that was that game. Was that the one where Marcus Wheaton just went off? Because they were shutting down AB and he had 200 and some yards receiving, but they lost 39-30. That's the only game where the Steelers weren't favored coming out of the bye since Mike Tomlin's been the head coach. So while you can look at this both ways. Oh, look, the Steelers have been doing much better coming out of the bye. But you could also look at it like, well, but they've been favored in a lot of those games because of their opponents. Here's another one I looked up for this. Okay, I was possibly going to do this on Stat Geek. I'm like, I'm going to do the other stuff. Steelers don't start off very hot. No, they don't start off very hot in 2021, and they didn't in 2020, period. Looking at the first quarter, you realize last year, whether you count that coming off the bye or not, it technically was coming off the bye, but they didn't have your typical bye week. Okay, but coming out of that bye, that was the first time the Steelers scored a first quarter touchdown coming out of the bye since 2008.
Wow.
Yes. That was the first time they scored a touchdown in the first quarter in the game following the bye week since 2008. Also, it's the first time they scored points in the first quarter since 2015, that Seattle game. And now they had a field goal in 2015 against Seattle. They had a field goal in 2014 at home against New Orleans in a game that they lost by 3 points. But the Steelers, that's the biggest concern that I think Steelers fans have. Isn't that they completely don't come out and play great after the bye, but it takes them a while to get started. Have you gone to a game that was following the bye week yet? Or do you not even remember? Have you been there in stadium?
I have no idea. I'll be honest.
Okay. I was in 2019. I was there for that Miami game where the Steelers got down, was it 14-0 and ended up winning 27-14. And it looked terrible. They looked awful coming out of the bye, even though it wasn't Ben Roethlisberger. So that's my biggest concern, is not that they aren't going to play well throughout the game, but are they going to start well enough? Because how did they start the last time they played the Browns? Is that a yoy, a double yoy, or a triple yoy, or the infamous quadruple yoy? You know what I'm saying? It was 28-0. So, but the Steelers, part of those guys were basically coming off of a bye there because they didn't play the week before. So I don't know what to think. I really don't know what to think. I would not be shocked to see the Steelers come out and completely blow the doors off the Cleveland Browns, rest, rejuvenated, and say, this is who we're going to be the rest of the season. Boom. We're going to make a statement right here. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Steelers come out and look lethargic and get the doors blown off of them early and perhaps completely, if you know what I'm saying. Neither of those outcomes would shock me. But I'm thinking it's probably going to be more of a closer, hard-fought game. But there's nothing coming out of the bye week that would absolutely surprise me in this game. And so I don't know if that's good or not.
Where I'd like to see something interesting is going to be Keith Butler.
Mm-hmm.
If he used the bye to wrinkle up something in the defense, that could be the difference in this game.
Yeah. What do you mean? What are you thinking?
Just some things that we haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be in coverage disguises to try to throw off Baker Mayfield or Case Keenum, but especially Baker Mayfield, and get that big mistake for an interception or a strip sack or, something like that. That could end up being a difference maker in this game.
Yeah. I completely agree, because you know why? That's what they did to win the last two games. That's exactly what they did to win the last two games. Look at their third down dime defense. What have the Steelers done the last two games?
Mm-hmm.
And you want an in-depth look at that third down dime defense? All you have to do is go to behindthesteelcurtain.com tomorrow and look for
you missed something there.
Your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And look for the Steelers Vertex article, because that's the topic that Jeffrey Benedict and I tackled this week. We looked at the stats of the third down defense the last two games versus the first four. I'm like, the Steelers won the first week, but I'm looking at the last two games because this is where they did this different personnel package. Mm-hmm. And then Jeffrey broke it down in film to show how it was different and what they were going for and why they were having success. So that's the kind of thing you're talking about, right? Something like that, where you just kind of do a little something. Well, go ahead, because I think I have an answer for you.
We sit and talk week to week about adding things to the offense, but where I think the difference could be made this week would be where they've been able to add things to the defense.
Yeah. I think
that's where I think something could happen, so that a play could be made that could be swing the pendulum in our favor.
Yes. I'm going to go back. This is why I think it's coming. Okay. All speculation. I could be way off on this, but sometimes you got to read the head coach. Not the last question he was asked. Not even the next to last question he was asked. And someone said in the live chat, Dave, would you ask a question after that one? No, I would not. That's a great. I would not. I don't blame him. But the third to last question that was asked was about Minkah Fitzpatrick. This was Chris Carter from the Locked On Steelers podcast, former BTSC writer and podcaster. Got to throw that out there. He asked this question of Coach Tomlin. He said, Minkah Fitzpatrick hasn't had an interception this year. Is that something that's more circumstantial, or is it something that you're talking about like, hey, do we need to do something different with Minkah? This was Coach Tomlin's answer. He said, circumstantial. Stay tuned. Minkah is a playmaker. He makes plays. I'm sure when we're looking back at this, you won't have that question. To me, that screams, look out, something's coming.
Yeah, we've got some wrinkles that haven't been seen.
Yep. Yeah.
I like that.
And I can't wait for it. If one Baker Mayfield plays in this game, who honestly I'm going to say,
I hope he does.
I'm tipping off what I'm also going to have to say on Stat Geek, but if I had to pick, I'm picking Baker Mayfield because I'm picking the player that is more likely to screw up. So, and you don't get really much more upside, but you get a lot more downside. But like I said, I'll break that down a little bit more on Stat Geek. But if Baker Mayfield plays in that game and Minkah Fitzpatrick gets to him again, I'm going to look. You've instantly got to go check Wikipedia because somebody's going to change Baker Mayfield's daddy to Minkah Fitzpatrick. They're going to. They're going to. You know it would be coming. So, yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, but I'm just it's just interesting. At the same time, part of me wants I'm gonna blow your mind because I should say this for Stat Geek, but I feel like talk to my brother about this. Kind of pulling for Baker Mayfield a little bit when he doesn't play the Steelers. Not to win, but to do better. You know why?
Save up all that bad juju for us.
No, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. It's called the Joe Flacco Effect. The reason it's called the Joe Flacco Effect is exactly what I told. You're probably going to hear this again on Stat Geek. I have to admit, because this is just too much. I told a friend of mine who was a Ravens fan when they were having that run, when they were the 6th seed and everything, and Flacco won them like 2 playoff games. Okay.
Who were you telling that to?
A friend of mine who used to like the Ravens. He doesn't follow football anymore.
Okay.
So anyway, and he used to be a huge Ravens fan, but what I said to him is I said, hey, you've got to go win it all this year because you'll never come close again. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, by those 2 playoff games, he just earned so much more money than what he's worth. He's going to set that franchise back 5 years. And some people are like, well, did he really set it back? How far have they gotten since then? Yeah. Because when it's kind of like Detroit kept paying Matt Stafford because he was their best option. And as we can see, Matt Stafford's a pretty good option when you get some players around him. But the problem was, sometimes you have to pay your quarterback and then you can't afford to do other things. And the Cleveland Browns right now, what makes them a good football team, honestly, is that they have the best offensive line in the NFL. As you can see, if you watched last Thursday, it didn't matter who the running back was. Okay. And they can go out and they can make Myles Garrett, pay him buku money and bring in other defenders and pay all these free agents. Okay. Once you have to pay your quarterback money and that quarterback isn't elite. I know some people say Joe Flacco was elite, if that quarterback's not elite, but you're paying him elite money, you're in trouble. So part of me wants him to do well enough to get a contract that's just going to screw him up, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. Does that make sense?
It would just be, the Browns being the Browns.
Yeah. So, and some people were like, oh, Joe Flacco. Yes, he did just get traded this week. He got traded to the Jets. So just, count Flacula before Thanksgiving.
I gotta find that
bring
picture and put out here
Mhm.
some night of Kyle in his Count Flacula Halloween costume that year. It was hilarious. We took the Pittsburgh Dad episode. We dressed Kyle up like Count Flacula.
Yeah. So that's just kind of one of those things. But this all stemmed from a question about the Steelers doing something special and different on defense. And I think Coach Tomlin, you've got to be excited if that's another one of those answers. Go back and listen to the last 3 questions of that press conference, and you'll enjoy that Minkah answer as well, because the tone of his voice said it all. So
yeah,
you're looking
that all in all today was just a very unique Mike Tomlin press conference.
Yeah. Yep. So let's get back to it.
Okay, let's get back to.
So you're looking for the rested and rejuvenated.
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
The question is the wild card. How about these rookies? Got a lot of rookies that you're counting on. A lot of rookies getting significant playing time. You've got the Najee Harris, you got the Pat Freiermuth, you got the Kendrick Green, you got Dan Moore Jr., who you assume still going to be playing, but we still don't know what's going to go on there. Loudermilk's getting snaps on the defensive line. Trey Norwood's doing a great job in sub-package defense. Big Press is booting the ball away. Got to cut down on the old Shankopotamus. But hopefully those are out of his system. Do you think that might be the biggest wild card coming out of the bye, is how the rookies respond to a week off? Are they going to come out stronger, or are they going to come out with a little bit of rust?
I typically don't expect to see rust on those young guys, because most of them still have that feeling that they are fighting for something to prove.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They could use the rest, because I'm sure 6 weeks of NFL football that they had never experienced before. I'm sure they were feeling it a little bit. So a little rest for them is a good thing, but also gave them some time to get back. And I would hope some of them looked at some film here and there, did some studying, and come back with some things they're wanting to work on and improve. As long as they do that, I'm not that worried about them coming off. As long as they took that type of attitude towards the bye, I'm not worried about them. Now, if they were off, riding jet skis and making bad rap videos, then sorry, I couldn't resist.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Then we got something to worry about. So
you can stop right there. Okay, I have to bring up something that was said in the live chat, because I just can't go past it. This is from Just Me. Just Me says, I don't know where to go for the podcasts. I have YouTube. Do they play the podcast there? Okay, we have our live YouTube shows, one a day, every day, but we have a whole podcast platform. And the best place, I'll tell you, the best place to find it is if you have an iPhone, to go to Apple Podcasts. Now, Rich, you don't have an iPhone, do you?
I do not.
What do you use?
I typically go over on the website and click on, I forget which one I listen to on there, but I click on one of those.
Okay, that's another thing I was going to bring up anyway. Okay, so there are multiple ways. Apple Podcasts is our biggest platform. You can go to what are the other ones? Stitcher, is that one? I can't remember. I don't remember what Jeff Hartman does. But if you go there, all you have to do is look for our channel, Behind the Steel Curtain. You can just type in Steelers, and we're going to be one of the top, 3 choices there. If you just go in and search, and you'll see the BTSC logo, which you can see on YouTube now behind Rich and I. That's kind of in the background there, and all you got to do is click in there, subscribe, and every one of our podcasts, when we upload it, it will go there, and it'll be there, and you'll have them in chronological order, meaning in reverse chronological order, with the newest ones first. And if people are wondering, a lot of times with these shows, we put part 2 out before part 1, because when you go through, just like a couple minutes, because when you go through That way, part one's on top. So it goes part one and then part two. That's the reason we do it, because most of our downloads do come from Apple Podcast. But what Rich says, you can go to behindthesteelcurtain.com, click on any of the podcast articles, and it'll actually be in there where you can click on the player.
It says Apple users, click here. Spotify, click here. Google Play, click here.
That's the one. Spotify. I couldn't remember what it was. You can click on there, or you can listen to it. There's a link right in the article. You can literally just hit play right there, and it will play the podcast. So that's where you can get them.
I've done that too. I've listened just on there, but I use Google Play sometimes as well.
Yep.
So
I just had to bring it up because it was asked. Okay.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this game because I'm just like, something about me is saying, as nervous as I am that the Steelers could come out flat, I'm thinking they could come out and say, let's do this.
Here's what I want to see. That we talked defense there a little bit. I want to switch sides of the ball for a second. Okay. Offensively, what I want to see is, after back-to-back games with the Steelers getting much better push on their offensive line, an improvement in the running game and some of the running lanes, how is our offensive line going to do against the Cleveland front seven?
That's a fantastic question. I think that's
if they come out and are able to continue to do some of those things that they were doing the past two games, that's going to be great.
Yeah.
If we're back to the drawing board on, back at step one, could be a long day.
Yeah. And I mean, because the biggest thing is we saw against Denver when Ben Roethlisberger had time to make a decision based on the receiver actually running the route and not just having to decide where he's throwing the ball before it snapped and getting the ball out because of having times to make the decisions. So that's going to be key. That is Ben Roethlisberger going to worry that I was going to say it, but I better not worry that the pressure is going to be coming so fast that he's going to have to do that. Or is he going to have time to make those decisions? And if he does, then that's when the offense will really be rolling that way. I'm going to throw
I'm just wondering what you were going to say there, because the first thing that popped into my head that you didn't say that I thought you were going to say there was, is Ben Roethlisberger worried that Myles Garrett's going to come and rip the helmet off his head to hit him with it?
I'm not even going to say rip the helmet off. I said, is he worried that someone's going to be flying across the line swinging helmets? Is what I was going to say. Okay, so there, you got me to say it. So I do, before we get on to our scores, so now that, just because I said the word, don't start putting them in the live chat yet.
Nope,
if you're new, hold on. We got something special that we do here at the end every time. I'm going to go back to defense for one second.
Okay.
And I have to say that honestly, the biggest question mark for me there is the run defense going up against the number one rushing attack in the NFL.
Yes.
Because the Steelers have not been stout against the run as of late. Because of, it was one thing to be down Stephon Tuitt. They were still able to come out and do a great job against the running attack, week one, but we haven't seen that as Steeler fans since. You lost Tyson Alualu, so that hurts. You still don't have Stephon Tuitt. You're seeing all the inside linebackers. Coach Tomlin brought it up today. If the inside linebackers have to have a clean shot, and how they get a clean shot is by the defensive line doing their job. So they have to work together. So if the other team's getting you on the first level, so you're talking about that good offensive line and that good run game. Are the Steelers defense going to be up to the task? Because honestly, we're talking about Baker Mayfield versus Case Keenum. You could literally see the Cleveland Browns throw the ball 10 times in this game if the Steelers can't stop the run.
Yeah.
Because their coach is crazy enough to do it and not just throw the ball for the sake of throwing it. He'll say, hey, you want to get Minkah Fitzpatrick going? You want to get TJ Watt going? You know what we're going to do? We're going to take him out of the game by just running the ball. We're just going to run the ball. Run. And we will run the ball. It's kind of like the infamous high school team, like the rival high school. It's actually where my wife went to high school. My senior year went all the way to the state championship game. They're playing the state championship game. I think they lost 14-12. They didn't get 2-point conversions. The other team kicked extra points. They lost. But then one of the 2-point conversions, they threw the ball like 6 feet over the tight end, who was a friend of mine. It was only their second pass of the game. They only passed the ball twice because no one could stop them running the ball. So I wouldn't be shocked to see the Cleveland Browns go back and do the high school thing and just say, we're just going to run the ball until you stop it. I would, but then again, I was a high school coach. That's just me. Do you think that's the key, stopping the run?
Oh, I do. Yes. Why? Because if it's Baker, I want to see him throwing the ball. If we lose to Baker throwing the ball, more power to you, Baker.
Yeah.
But honestly, I see if Baker throwing the ball, I see that we could have some good things happen.
Man, I'm tipping off so much stuff that I have set up and all ready to go for Stucky.
Nope,
I'll say it.
Okay.
The last time the Pittsburgh Steelers faced the Browns was in the playoffs. That's the only time Baker Mayfield's thrown for more than 200 yards against the Steelers. He'd never gone over 200 yards against them.
Mm-hmm.
So these are kind of things to remember. So, Rich, it's up on you. It's up to you. We got to get going with these scores. If you're not sure how this works, Rich he's going to give us his game score. I'm going to put the word scores in the live chat. That's when you can type your scores in, and we will bring them up. If you bring up your scores early, we're not going to do it. You got to wait for me to put it in there. So I'm sure everyone's just going to stop now typing their score and wait for me to do this. Rich, what do you see happening at 1 o'clock this Sunday?
Here's where I'm going today. This could change as I look at what happens, the next couple of days in practice by the time I get to do the article this weekend and put in my score there. But right now I'm going to say this, okay? I figure this is going to be a tight game, okay? 24-23 Steelers due to a missed PAT by the Cleveland kicker. Chris Boswell's perfect on the day.
Interesting. No, what would be great is if the Browns score the touchdown on the last play of the game to tie it up and then miss that PAT.
Missed the PAT 2 times.
Who was that? Was that that was New Orleans years ago. Had the crazy flipping the ball back, everything else, laterals, everything, and broke it for the touchdown to tie the game and missed the extra point back when it was at the 2-yard line and lost by a point. That was in the late 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, you weren't going that far. Everyone's waiting. Put it in there, Dave. Boom.
Yeah,
it is there.
Scores.
You all can give us your scores. We'll bring them up. And that's how we finish out the show. So I like that. 24-23. I wouldn't be – Browns only scored 17 points last week, but that was enough to win, right? Wasn't it 17? Something like that. I don't know.
Something like that.
So here we go. So let's get started here.
Yep.
Stacey Lynn, 17-10 Steelers. We'll remind you all, if you don't say a team, we know that it's the Steelers. Okay. What is that? Break Quest. I love the Lego, dude. Okay. Steelers 27-13. Steelers Pittsburgh 35-10 Steelers. Ooh, 35. Okay. BMK. Here he is back from his he got to watch both of those games. That 2-game winning streak. I'm worried he's not going to be in the stands, man. When he's there, they win. Okay, he says 24-9 Steelers if Baker plays, 27-17 if Case plays. I like that. That's interesting. Okay, Steel Dog 88 says 27-13 Steelers. He has Minkah with 2 picks. I'll take that all day. Okay, outside Steeler fan, Good Guys 28-13, and he has Najee with 2 TDs. Okay, Steeler Chick 46 is Steelers 27, Browns 24. Greg Schallenberger, 23-20 Steelers. Dave also falls from the Survivor League.
Nice.
Hey, we've had a total of 9 people go out in the last 2 weeks. That's it. Yeah. So we're destined to have a big upset that's going to knock a bunch of people out. And it's okay if I fall out of the Survivor League.
I hope it's not me. I'm still in. Kyle's still in.
I'd say I'd pick the Browns just so I could get knocked out, but I already used them hoping they would lose earlier, and then they won. Okay. Craig J. Lawson says Pittsburgh 27, Browns 24. Michael O'Malley says, I'm going to do it just because I actually didn't even see the whole comment. He says, I hope we win. That's my prediction. I feel you, Michael. Okay. UT local bands, 27-10 Steelers. Allie Howard Species, 5, a bunch of letters. Steelers 33-13. Okay. Devin Logan, 17-14 Steelers in a close game. Tyler W., 31-17. Claypool goes off. I'd like to see Claypool go off. George Teston, Steelers 33-27. Oh, he has more scoring points. John Loof, 21-12 Steelers. Okay. Okay.
Slow him down because you still got a ways to go.
I know. Well, someone was saying about both their back. Nick Chubb's back. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
he's back. Okay. George OTJ, 27-21. The great guys, not the good guys. The great guys. Reginald Rivers, 23-16 Steelers. Mark Tobin, 30-17 Steelers. I missed one. Sorry. I'll get to that. Marvin Hamilton, 35-7. That's close to what it was the first matchup last year. That was 38-7.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Joey Jr. says 33-9 Steelers. Okay. Thanks, Mean Joe. 17-16 Steelers win. That's an interesting one. Okay. Todd Faraday, Steelers 24-21. Chris Pugh, one of the half R guys. Okay. TJ has 2 safeties. Steelers 4-3. Oh, that's that. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Okay. I can never say this name right. Ronan Ganjan. What'd you say, Ronan? 20-13 Steelers. Okay. So there we go. Did I miss any in there?
No, I don't think so. I think we got them all.
Yeah. So it's honestly, I think a lot of it. The injury report's going to be interesting for the Browns because they were banged up. They did have their mini bye as well. You got to remember that. So don't know exactly who's going to be there, who's going to be available. Coach Tomlin does not care about which quarterback it is. He thinks they're the same dude. He really does. So, well, I don't know if he really does, but that's what he really says. Guygan, thank you. Guygan.
I think he's told us that before. We just can't ever remember anything.
I will forget it by next week. I can almost guarantee that. So make sure you're going to BuyTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. As we talked about before, answering questions, make sure you're subscribing to any of our podcast platforms or going to the website to catch the other podcasts. Most of them are associated with an article. Like Jeff does an injury report podcast. It's generally, 7 minutes long or so every day. That's, we'll throw it in an article, but it's not all necessarily says podcast on it. So, but we have a lot of stuff out there. So if you listen to podcasts in any of these places where you find them, just subscribe and you'll get them. We're back with the regular lineup. We've got the daily YouTube shows, we've got the morning shows, we've got the other ones filling in. I could list them all for you, but my goodness, we'd be here another 10 minutes. So bottom line is just make sure you're checking us out. And we want to thank you all for being here tonight. It's so much fun to hang out with you guys. Rich and I get to talking right before we go on the air. We're like, what are we doing this for? Let's get on there and talk with everybody else. Yep. So Rich, anything else you want to say here before we get out of here?
No, just glad that the bye week is now over.
Yes.
Hoping to see us rested and rejuvenated and bring on the Browns.
Bring them on.
Can't wait.